door closer. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning,
teacher.
Welcome to teacher. What now? You got that? Welcome to the February meeting of the Palm Springs International Airport Commission. Posting an agenda, Mr. Smoot.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, your agenda was posted last Thursday for your requirements.
Thank you. Roll call, Marjorie.
Gazelle.
Here.
Bosworth. Callahan.
Here.
Shield.
Here.
Drysky. Present. Engelhardt.
Here.
Duncan. Frieden.
Present.
Luders.
Here.
Lovett.
Here.
McLaughlin.
Here.
Miller.
Yo.
Sherman is excused. Sisson.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
Taville.
Here.
And Tyler.
Here.
The roll's been called.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marjorie. Approval of the minutes from the January meeting.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Introduction, public comments, I'm sorry. We have a period where anybody from the public can speak for 3 minutes on any issue within the purview of this commission. And seeing none, we will move forward to introductions. Mr. Smoot, do we have any introductions? We're right on to business. Item 1, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to do this and Mike will chime in if I need some help. What we're seeking is to try to get a jump on the next phase of the big project that's on the wall as far as the reconfiguration of the roadway. We're right now racing to try to get these plans out in the next 3 weeks to where we can get them bid and get under construction sometime in April so we can complete by Thanksgiving. That's going to be a real push. One of the problems is we have some tremendous amount of demolition and some temporary facilities that have to get set up in this project in order to, before we can actually start construction. So what we've done is we've gone to Maddich, who's finishing up our existing roadway project related to the rail car lot, and have asked them to give us a quote for doing the demolition of the employee parking lot and all the concrete that's down there around the CNG station, which all has to come out. And in addition to that, before you can obviously demolish the employee parking lot, you have to establish a new one. And so we have approval to actually establish a new temporary employee parking lot inside of the ramp area down behind and new, yeah, I can show you, in that general area there. It's where we used to park commuter aircraft, and we don't currently park anybody back there, and so we're going to fence that off. We'll be able to use that as the temporary employee parking lot. It'll be the temporary access point for cargo and things coming into the back of the airport. And so this change order from Maddich for $202,000 and change is to do all of the preparatory work so that when we actually get the next contractor out here to start the bigger project, they can actually hit the ground running. With that, we would recommend you council approval of this.
Have a motion?
Move approval.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded. Any comments?
Just a question, what part of the 200,000 would you say represents the temporary parking lot as distinct from the demolition? And was the demolition under contemplated it was contemplated from the beginning, but this is an acceleration of that work?
That's correct. All of this was contemplated in the beginning. We have to take it out. It's just a matter of, initially we were going to include it in the project, but it's going to take 30 days to get that demolition done.
Okay.
If we wait, it just sets us back 30 days, and we're going to be into the Christmas holidays.
The temporary lot will be used for till November, do I understand?
It will be used until this is done at Thanksgiving.
Okay.
This would reduce the total project then by that some $200,000.
That's correct. I mean, it's all in one single grant, so it's just assigning the dollars to one contractor rather than the other.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Carries. New loop road construction. Can we get better names for these projects? Northerly Loop Road. How about other roads?
Other roads.
Other roads.
not here at your last meeting. And
Lucky, wasn't
I was lucky, I guess, from reading the minutes. And you did have this discussion on the signage, and you did ask the subcommittee to convene, and that subcommittee did convene with the staff a week and a half ago or so. And we went through the issues. What I tried to do in the report is kind of summarize where the subcommittee went and what they discussed. And I left the stuff on the board from the meeting that we went through and discussed as we went through it. And we did spend some time talking about the signage, particularly the on-airport signage, and really what its purpose was. And its purpose is to make sure that people can find their way around the roadway, particularly since we're going to complicate it pretty dramatically with this new project. And in doing so, then we kind of talked about, okay, well, who is really going to be looking for this signage to find themselves to other resort cities, desert cities, whatever you want to call them, the rest of the places here in the valley that we all live and work. And the issue really came down to, it's the people who rent cars. I mean, everybody else that comes here basically knows their way through the airport, but the people who rent cars do not. And I mean, when I missed your meeting last time, I was visiting a location and I was renting a car, and I had no idea where I was going, and I walked up to the person and I said, how do I get out of here and how do I get where I'm going? And they gave me a little map and explicit instructions, and they said, look for such and such sign. And that's exactly what happens here. Before the subcommittee meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, I went down and talked to each of the rent-a-cars, and I said, how do you tell people to find their way to La Quinta? And they tell us right now, they basically tell them to go out to El Cielo and turn left and follow their way down. They said when this new roadway is in, whatever the sign says, I mean, if we label it whatever, Bangladesh, they'll tell them, look for the Bangladesh signs. That's how you get out of the airport, and that's how you get going east. And so based upon that, then the committee talked about the need to keep these signs simple, because there's a lot of information that we have to get to people to get them around this roadway. And based upon that, the subcommittee, and I think they can speak for themselves here in a second, unanimously said, let's stick with something like other resort cities, the resort, keeping people feeling like they're in a resort area, and we're promoting ourselves in our signage, but we're not putting the names of 8 cities on the sign to confuse people. If you look at the wall over there behind you, there are, these are some of the signs that we're looking at. And primarily, as you're coming around the roadway and starting to come back to the Tacos entrance, this first sign someone will see would tell them if they're in the left lane, they're either going to return to the airport or they're headed towards other resort cities. And as you're coming down here and you're coming across, there'll be another sign that will split folks into the small vehicles, the oversized vehicles, and again, other resort cities. As you come around the corner, the sign there would say other resort cities, Highway 111, straight ahead, oversized vehicles. And you get to this point here, there's another sign that says other resort cities that keeps you going in this direction. And then the discussion from the subcommittee was there is another sign when you get right at the end of the roadway and you're setting up the traffic signal. There is a sign across the street that currently says other desert cities, I think. We would change that to other resort cities. And then the subcommittee asked that the city engineer consider putting some names of other cities and those kinds of things out there directionally. And that we will pass on to the city, and we already have passed on to the city engineer, and we will if the commission approves it. Ask them to take a look at that. That's within his purview, not ours, since it's off the airport. That's the staff's report. Subcommittee, Mr. Tyler, his crew are here.
Yes, thank you, Al. We did meet with you on the 27th. Commissioners Duncan, Ruders, Spicer, and myself basically went through the litany that you described, I think, pretty well. I think that there's a couple of existing curbside signs. There's one right where you come out of the back door, if you will, and onto the expressway. It says same name. The other one is East Valley Cities,
Right.
which started all this. So those would have to be changed to be consistent. And I think other than that, anybody else? John, any thought on it?
Yeah, Robert, we also discussed that there will be some renters, car renters who want to go to Palm Springs.
Yeah.
And that there is a sign, you might point to that, Alan, if you would, with your pointer there, so that people on that loop road who want to go to Palm Springs will see a sign to turn off to Palm Springs.
Right there.
Yeah, I mean, the rent cars are gonna come out over here now and jump onto the loop road, and this first sign that they'll see here, the center sign, basically keeps you in this center lane, telling you that you're gonna exit the airport to Palm Springs if you go this way, or you're gonna go, turn your rental car. Then there is another sign, if you missed that location and gone on by, there is another sign right here that says exit to Palm Springs.
So basically, there's only two areas that a person would be going to, right? Other resort or Palm Springs.
Theoretically, I mean, somebody could be going to Beaumont too, you know, so we can't deal with all those, but I mean, yeah.
No.
But I mean, if somebody was renting a car and asking that question, they would be told.
Yeah,
Be told to go. Well, I'm in trouble.
Gary, you got anything?
Well, it's a good summary of everything. I think we've covered it all. We've discussed a lot of various options, all the different names you see up here. And we felt like putting resort, the name resort versus desert might have some negative connotation now. So resort is kind of key.
We do need a motion.
I so move that we recommend to the city council.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's seconded. Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Passes, carries. Capital improvement budgeting, this is the budgeting cycle, and it's a horrendous exercise for our staff. We will be involved in it here shortly. Because it fluctuates so much, what we think is a great idea changes 2 days later once the city gets a hold of it, and we don't have all the data. So do be aware that this is sort of a state of flux, no matter what goes down.
Yes, and we're kind of going to talk to the budget in two pieces. This is kind of introducing the capital items. Later on, we'll ask that we set up a budget subcommittee to go through the actual detailed budget so that they can do that, and we'll bring it to the commission. And just in case you're new to the commission, and our budget process is such is that I have to actually submit the budget next Friday. And obviously, I submit it well before you guys have a chance to review it, but it's just our first submittal to the finance department. And then it starts through a whole bunch of review processes. So if we get a month down the road and the commission reviews the budget and wants to change something, it's not a problem at that point. It's not like we're preempting your review, it's just the city's processes. We've got to get it in early so they can start working it. And so we will be going through that process with you.
The budget year fiscal year is July 1?
July 1. And we're actually almost a month behind in the process right now from where we normally are. So we're trying to catch up. And what I did send you in this report was try to, put in a capsule some of the things that we have going on. And we have a lot going on, and we have a lot of things that are coming to bear on us. And what I was missing from your meeting last time, I was actually at a conference where they were kind of talking about what was happening nationwide with airports, particularly with TSA and the changes in security, and what the long-term issues were going to be. And the biggest concern that most of the airports were expressing, and quite frankly everybody in the room was expressing, was trying to minimize the hassle factor and trying to realize that the industry is in a terrible financial fix right now, and the last thing we need to do in trying to encourage passengers to fly is to make it more difficult. At this conference, there were airports where there were huge business sector activity at their airport that would fly to a destination of less than 2 hours to do business and then turn around and fly back that night. Tremendous amount of business travel. Well, their business activity since all this stuff had started going into place has dropped right through the floor, because the business traveler says, if I got to spend 2.5 hours dancing around at the airport and then fly 2 hours, I can drive and be there just as fast. And so the drive market is taking over in a lot of instances. In our case, it's not so much of that, just because we do have competitors within a couple of hours of us, but we don't have the business travel that might want to go there. So there was a lot of question about that and a lot of issues, particularly with the smaller airports, as to how do we get beyond the explosive detection systems that we have today stuck in the lobbies and get them somewhere else. And so that's kind of the things that go into the packaging of some of the things that we have to try to get accomplished here in the next year. So hopefully, somehow we can minimize what's going on in that lobby. Now, TSA, and Tom isn't here today, but he would tell you that we're busily working on trying to get some of it out of the lobby right now, and we're hopeful that within the next 2-3 weeks, we will actually start to move some of it out of the lobby into some various locations that we're working on to get that done. It's still not going to be a permanent fix, but at least it'll give us some breathing room. And one of the things we have to worry about in the explosive detection arena is everybody's telling us there is a second phase to where we will actually get to a more permanent solution, an inline solution, which means everything will be out back behind the ticket counters to where the customer will not see the activity at all. They'll just drop their bag and complete. And the problem with that is that there's no money. Congress set up $875 million in this last budget for inline solutions at airports, and TSA spent $500,000 on it with Boeing to do a study, or $500 million, excuse me, of the $784 million. So right now the airports are a little ticked off that all that money got spent on a consulting agreement rather than having actual implementation. And what we're hearing is next year there's no money in the budget for long-term solutions, mainly because they're still trying to get some of the bigger airports actually in full compliance with the law right now. And we've basically been told from some inside sources that we have managed to find in the TSA after a lot of work, we found a couple people who will actually talk to us, that we're considered a green airport. That is one that has a solution in place that is working, and if it has to stay that way for 3 or 4 years, that's good, as far as the TSA is concerned. As far as we're concerned, we don't think it's good just because of the hassle factor and the problems down there. So part of this process is to find a way through that. And if you go to about the 3rd page in this, 4th page in the report where it says the plan on the top, maybe I can kind of summarize some of the things we're looking at and trying to just talk about the dollars we have to spend in the next fiscal year for capital. And the first item is on the inspection plaza, which is the project on the wall that we've been talking about. There's going to be about $1 million of expenditure in there that's our money. All the landscaping that we're looking at and those kinds of things, and the landscape plan that's been approved by the planning commissions on the wall there also. It's a pretty extensive plan. And besides that, the employee parking lot cannot be paid for with grant monies, and some of the other things that we're doing out there cannot be paid for with grant money. So we figure we've got about $1 million that we've got to come up with that's our own money that goes into that project. We're in the midst of designing the new TSA offices to go in under the Bono Concourse down on the ground level. It's about 5,500 square feet of office space down there. The nice thing about that, we will actually get reimbursed over, it'll probably be a 10-year lease we do with them, and we'll get our investment back over 5 plus our normal lease rates there. So we'll be able to work through that process. Our access control system is 12 years old. It needs to be upgraded. Our provider, there is no service provider anymore in existence for this system, and it's our staff that manages to keep it running. Quite frankly, since we haven't had a provider, we've done a lot better. But you know, we have to keep our fingers crossed. There's a lot of hardware and firmware out there and software that could go bad on us. So this is a replacement of that, and also this replacement system would allow us, as the federal government requires us to bring on biometrics, which are either retina scan or fingerprint or something of that nature to further identify people. This system will have the ability to have those devices plugged into it and operate off of it. Another piece that we have to do to finish to get our blast analysis completed is straightening that loop road in front of the building. And that has, again, that's this concept of doing a very big plaza out front. We'll have a lot of landscaping and other things that have to go on out there to make it functional and pleasing for the public to be in. A lot of that is grant eligible, but a lot of it won't be grant eligible. We're gonna have to spend some of our own money. And then the other one is, and we haven't really talked a lot about this project yet, is the issue of hardening the terminal. And initially that started off with looking at how we take care of the glass in the front, and we take care of the columns inside of the building from the eventuality of someone with a satchel bomb setting something next to the column and detonating it. And out of that study, what we've discovered, coupled with the need for more space in the lobby, we've discovered that it actually makes sense to replace the glass wall that we have by moving the glass wall further out and changing it to a newer technology glass that can actually partially withstand the blast. It's a complicated thing, and we will eventually go through the whole semantics of how it works, but the bottom line is that huge overhang that we have out in front of the building creates more of a problem for us than not having it, or by getting the glass line out to where it doesn't become such a pocket to hold energy in. So we need to look at that. The next thing is some type of facility for explosive detection out back. No matter how this process goes, we believe what's going to unfold is the airports are going to be responsible for getting the building in place. The TSA will be responsible for bringing in the equipment and part of the conveyor belts and possibly some of the electrical requirements. And so there's going to be a need for something out back. Now we're looking at a whole variety of things, and we may have some concepts as to how to minimize this and not cost this much, but we've got to have something going on in order to try to move that equipment out of the lobby and keep it out of there. Then we've got our old fallback of hold room replacements down here that continue to get older and older and continue to get more dilapidated, which need to get replaced. And then lastly, one of the things that we demoed about a week and a half ago here for some of our staff was a new interactive training program that our airport association is putting together and putting out that's actually specific to the specific airport that you're operating at, to where we currently spend a lot of time doing training for driver training and for security training, where we get a badge and those kinds of things here in this room every other week. And we spend a lot of staff time doing that. This would be the purchase of a system that actually has an interactive training program established in it, to where you don't have to have a person that teaches it. And part of this concept would be to set this interactive training system up out at the security inspection station that we're building as part of the roadway, so that the people that are out there could administer the process, but as people needed to go through training, they just go out there and sit down through the interactive system. The system automatically grades it, automatically sends the scores. It can even be set up to automatically take their picture, so that by the time they get back to the terminal building, their badge is ready to go if they've passed the classes. So it's something that will save us a lot of manpower, and hopefully be able to use that person to do inspections at our inspection plaza. All of that together cost about $15.5 million, which is probably, next to the terminal building expansion, it is the biggest capital program we've ever tried to put together. And if you flip back to somewhere, a couple pages further back where it says the funding plan, here's some possible options that we can explore and we're beginning to look at.
Before you start on that one,
Yes, sir.
I asked a question.
Yes, sir.
On Boyd's contract, did they actually have oversight on all the work done in preparation for and was the contract actually issued by Boyd?
For
all the prep work done, we kind of hit it like they got $500 million for doing nothing, I shouldn't say nothing,
Consulting.
as consultant, but all the oversight of all the work on, across the nation was under Bowie money.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So it was more than just
Yeah, but they got
sitting
more
up
than
there and making
five,
up some plans.
I know, but they got more than 500 million. They got another contract that was supposedly to do that, and on top of it, they got another 500 million because the contract was overrun so bad that they had to put extra money in. I mean,
But they issued all the contracts for the work.
either they did or their subcontractors.
Yeah, that's right.
Funding wise, there is currently some dollars left in our current budget that we had set up this year to do some projects, and part of it was to fund our share of the loop road, which we haven't spent yet. So that money is, a portion of it's sitting there. We anticipate that our entitlements in this current fiscal year with the federal government, which started in October, will be around 3.2 million. Since Congress hasn't actually adopted the budget yet, we don't know, but that's going to happen soon, we anticipate. And we're also going to anticipate that we can weasel 2.8 million in a discretionary grant out of them. We've been pretty lucky in dragging money out of them in the past, so we're going to try to do that again. We are in the middle of that sale of the school district facility up on Alejo Road that we own, and it is progressing pretty good now. And actually, the council's going to be asked to approve the purchase and sale agreement here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and actually open an escrow while we sit and wait for those dollars to come in. In the 03-04 budget, we think there's going to be about $900,000 worth of airport monies for capital projects. And that, the way it's looking right now, we're still trying to balance numbers, but that's kind of a guess. A portion of years ago, when the airport was granted, or the city was granted this airport when they turned over the Army Air Corps base that was here to the city, which was back in God knows when, a long time ago. There were lots of grant deeds that took place, and part of that was this Army Air Corps base and the hospital that was generally located next to us here had its own wastewater treatment plant, which is exactly where the current wastewater treatment plant is. And so when it was granted, when they granted the airport to the city, they granted that, the wastewater treatment plant, or at least a portion of the land down there, as part of the airport to the city. It wasn't until about 8, 9 years ago that we actually discovered that by reading the deeds real close. And it turns out that there is about 25 acres that the current wastewater treatment plant sets upon that is owned by the airport. A few years ago there was an audit, and out of that audit the FAA made the city start paying rent for it. And the wastewater treatment plant is paying us $386,000 and change a year for rent for that property. What we would propose to do, and we've actually had the property appraised, is we would propose to have the wastewater treatment plant buy that land from the airport rather than continue to lease it. And it is worth $3,833,132 and change.
Is there actually an interest in wastewater wanting to buy it?
I don't know that there is an interest in
We haven't
wanting to buy it, but there's an interest in us wanting the money. So that's why we're raising it here, so we can raise that interest across the street.
But don't we have a possibility that the city's going to be a little strapped for funds in the next
It's not
2 to
city
4
dollars.
years?
And we're talking about wastewater money, not city money. The wastewater treatment plant has its own reserves and has its own money that's generated from the plant itself, just like the airport. It's operated as an enterprise fund. The city can't use that money based on the voters' wishes of a few years ago for anything but wastewater programs. So it would not impact the city's cash position whatsoever.
Basically, for the low price of 10 years of the rent fee, they own the property.
That's the appraised value, yes.
Now, the name of it is wastewater treatment fund?
I don't know that that's the specific name. Got it.
You might have a double waste there.
Yeah, good. Yes.
Happens.
So anyway, that is a possibility.
How would you rate that possibility? Higher or lower?
Sounds
80, 20.
Good.
I was gonna say,
I'm not
this is
dumb
all right,
enough-
what do you guys think?
I'm not dumb enough to put it on here and not at least to raise it a little. One of the other things that we asked the council to do this last year was reduce our operations and maintenance reserve requirement from 20% to 15%. And we actually took that action and we sent it to the bond insurers and the folks who have to approve it, and they did do that. However, we did not actually physically reduce the reserves. The money is still sitting there. We thought we were going to have to, with lost revenues and everything else related to 9/11, but we recovered fast enough that we haven't spent it, so that money is sitting there and available. We also believe, again, this is guesswork, that there's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $800,000 of additional reserves sitting in various accounts that the airport has that we're trying to get finance to add up for us and tell us what that is. On top of that, there is the potential, this one I would say is not 80-20, more like 20-80, that we may end up with some type of a letter of intent program from TSA that would say, airports, if you go ahead and spend your money for this explosive detection second phase work, that over the next 8 to 10 years, we will reimburse you for it. They've signed one letter of intent with one airport already. Whether or not they're going to go beyond that, Congress is interested in looking at something like this, but obviously if they do it, we'll be ready to jump out there, so we don't know for certain. And then lastly, we still have to complete the refinancing of our 92 bond issue, which we're looking at doing. I think right now we're going to try to time it sometime around April. And out of that, because of the interest rate changes and some other stuff, there's a possibility that we may be able to squeeze about $1 million of additional funds out of that refinancing that could be used for capital in the terminal building. It'd have to be limited to that location because of what the bonds were for. So there is a possibility of finding money to match what we need to spend. I don't know that it's all reality, but at least there is a possibility. At this point, we really don't need any action from the commission, but I would be interested in any input that you have or whatever else. Just wanted to bring this to your attention to get it on your radar screen so you know that the size of the issue we're trying to deal with.
Well, on your first list there, you show some $15 million total. I think some of those issues involve some grants from TSA that offset some of that.
Basically, what any grant opportunities that we have that would be offset by anybody is shown on the funding page. So yes, part of those dollars are grant monies. There's the entitlement grant, the discretionary grant, the possibility of the EDS letter of intent from TSA. So there's about, between all of those, there's around $8 million right there in grants.
You say FAA, is that slash TSA or?
No, that's FAA. That's the.
So not only TSA things, that EDS letter of intent.
Right. Right now, TSA has no grant programs whatsoever.
Not any money.
No, they have no money. But FAA continues to have their grant programs, and
Okay, so everything we're doing now that is covered by a TSA grant is in the 0203 budget.
that's correct, except there's no TSA grant. There's no money from TSA. The only money that's been put in here by TSA is actually all the equipment and a few of the minor modifications that were done to the building. That's the money that's been brought in.
The
from
money for the
TSA.
road redone, all this other stuff, that comes from where?
That's all coming from this year's grants from the federal government, from FAA.
That's it.
Larry? I want to congratulate you and staff for putting together a good summary, and certainly in the budgeting process, particularly with a governmental agency, you want to put all of the things that you think you might be able to do and get funding for, and have us all aware of that. And you did characterize it in here as an aggressive plan, and that's proper. Since the funding sources, some of them are based upon third parties, and there's some contingencies in there, you may not get it all. As you pointed out, there are probabilities you could assign to each of these things. and recognizing that. And so my question is, in the next cut, or maybe before the final budget, whatever that is, would you be giving thought to a priority so that if you get, say, a certain number of dollars you want to spend, you know where you want to spend those first? And then if you don't come up with 100% funding, you know which projects you're going to defer into 04 and 05 or even drop? Would that be part of the process some point down the line?
Yes, that would be our next cut of this. I mean, we want to try to keep all of them on the table, but we know the realities of, we don't know what that roadway project's going to cost us yet. We're keeping our fingers crossed, but we don't know yet. If that comes in substantially greater than what we anticipate, we can't cut that project very much. We can take a few things out of it, but for the most part, we have to build it. So that becomes the first project. Once we get that done, then we know whether we have any grant monies in this current fiscal year left that we can start to apply towards the others. So yeah, it's going to be.
And those inputs will be available to you before you have to put this thing to bed. So,
Well, hopefully a lot of it will be, but some of it we may not include all of these in our budget that goes to council, because some of them are tied to grants, and if they're tied to grants, that's a new revenue source that comes in during the year. We can always just change the budget at that time. But we do want to, I do want to keep this in front of everybody so everybody realizes that eventually all 8 of these projects in one form or another have to be completed. And the sooner we do it, the better off we're going to be for our passengers and our ability to deal with growing capacity here at the airport. That's really the other thing that we really haven't talked about here is, while all this security stuff's going on, we're adding flights like crazy out there, and it's beginning to impact us as far as our ability to move airplanes around. And it's getting tighter and tighter. And so we have to be concerned about that too.
Al, who has oversight on this waste land, and how is that structured at enterprise zone?
There's 2 pieces of it. The city has another enterprise fund, just like the airport. It's called its wastewater fund. And it runs the wastewater system, which is the plant and collection system, and a few other little sundry things that are tied to it. And that has been there for as long as the airport's been here. That's been in existence. It's been a separate enterprise fund where the revenues that come in stay in that fund and are expended for that. A few years ago, there was a ballot initiative here in Palm Springs that tightened that down, and basically to the point to where the city can't even recoup all of its administrative costs of operating the plant right now from the system. And, so there's been a lot of activity around it. The land that we own over there, as part of this audit process a few years ago, was pointed out as part of the settlement under that audit. The city had to start paying from the wastewater fund to the airport fund the annual rent, which at the time was based upon a guesstimate of value. At this point, the city, as part of there's a new accounting thing that all the cities have to go through. It's called GASB 34 or something or another, and I'm not an accountant, so I can't tell you what that is, but it's a new process to where cities have to actually value all of their assets. And so Palm Springs started with its biggest asset, other than the airport, which is the wastewater treatment plant, and had an appraisal. And as part of that appraisal, our 24 acres is identified, or 24.96 acres is identified, and this is the exact value that's listed in here of it, as of value. The date of value was a month ago.
I guess my question is, the city council will be making the decision whether to buy this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's correct.
Not some outside agency
Oh, no, this
called
is-
Waste Management?
If the city council next week wanted to have the wastewater fund buy this, the wastewater fund currently has $5.2 million in it, they could write us a check. I don't know that they're gonna wanna do that, but I want to at least bring to their attention that hopefully the commission concurs with me that there is enough stuff going on over here that we need to try to find as much capital as we can to stay ahead of this. obviously it impacts an ongoing revenue source that we had, but we need to bring money to bear on some of those things.
Any other questions? If not, I think you've covered it very well. I think your point is well taken. We need to have a council and actually citizens of the valley understand that this capital projects are really an important part of getting this airport to continue to run very well. And we don't have a lot of choices in it, so we have to do it. It's not like we can say, well, we can paint the building green. Well, that's not the issue. So, if you will be aware of that this is going to be an ongoing thing, and the budgeting process, again, is we get money grants at weird times, and we can apply it to those programs. So, something may sit there and not look like it's going to get done, and in September, whatever the time in September is, when the goodies, when we pick little pieces off the tree, and that's probably Alan Berry's absolute forte, we will be able to go ahead with some of these projects. So it'll be kind of like an ongoing thing with the budget's there, but we won't have all the funds. And I think that's a realistic way of handling it. Any other comments? If not, let's move on with the agenda. I still have it in front of me. Updates.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit on air service, and then the chairman asked that Richard give you just a quick reminder of the air service incentive program, which we talked about with you a couple of meetings back, and the council has actually put into place now, so he could kind of remind you of that. And Richard and Bryant have been on the road again at work and have more trips scheduled and continue to talk to folks. The most recent trip was last week to American Airlines to talk about Chicago summer service. And they spent some time there, gave them presentations on that, and they're evaluating that, looking at it. There is a quirk in the schedule this year with American Airlines. The actual schedule change that they're doing in their system-wide schedule change for summer doesn't actually take place until the last day in June this year.
That's good.
So there is a possibility that instead of killing the Chicago flight in early June, as happened this last year, that it may get pushed out. That would not have happened had we not gone on this trip, because Richard and Bryant were able, with the help of SH&E's numbers, to kind of show them what we think Chicago would do here during the summer. So that may be the outcome of the meeting. We may get surprised, and they may just say, you know, we got an extra plane. But with all the news in the newspaper the last couple of days about American Airlines, who knows? We didn't bring up Dallas. They did. And Richard and Bryant were very courteous and said, yes, the committee no longer exists. They asked where their check was, and Richard and Bryant explained to them that they don't carry checks. Will be no check, and basically went through the process of explaining all the things that the Valley does in the way of promoting flights and those kinds of things, and showed the value of that to them. And when it was all said and done, these guys did a heck of a job for us, establishing a relationship between the airport and them that had not existed previously. We've always had another person between us, and that didn't work too well for us. So we feel good about it. Dallas summer service is actually in the computer. There's always a possibility it won't stay, but we think that the reality is they're not going to pull it. A couple of other things that are going on. We did a press release a day or so ago that didn't get picked up by anybody, but we did it. American Eagle started RJ service in here 2 flights a day over to LAX with their aircraft. Their midday turns that are out of here now, so they've added that service, which has changed things out in the ramp again.
Is that what that new service or replacement service?
It's replacement service. And it adds, they're flying 44-seat RJs that they're flying, so they're adding 14 seats of flight with them. And also, in the next couple of weeks, Alaska will change out their Seattle flights from the 737, whatever that they're flying, to the 737-800, which which is a 157-seat aircraft, which will add about 34 seats per flight on those new airplanes, a brand new aircraft, and they'll start rotating them out here in another 2 weeks, I think is when they start that. Plus, Sun Country, Sun Gold, different issue. Sun Country is here flying their flights out of Minneapolis a couple days a week now, and it's busy as heck out there. And Richard, you want to add something, or you want to talk about just give them a quick summary of the Air Service Incentive Award Criteria Program?
I don't have any more comments on that. On the Air Service Incentive Award Criteria, I understand, I don't know that each of you has it in front of you. I don't have it in front of me. Was there a question about it in particular?
Well, I just want, since now the city council approved it, I just thought if you could spend 2.5 minutes reviewing it, just telling us what it is, who it could be beneficial to, and what we think it will do for us.
Okay.
I think it'd be good, since they did approve it, and it is a fairly significant program.
No, you're correct. It is. I just didn't know that we were going to talk about it.
I'm sorry, I sprung it on you, and I'm sorry. So just give us a couple minutes.
What we did was took to the city council a program that at a level of $25,000 per carrier allows them to have marketing funds that the airport is allowed to use with that carrier for marketing efforts for either summer service flights that initiates, 2 times weekly service out of the New York market, or new route service that develops for our seasonal, which would be a new carrier entering entirely. What that allows us to do, though, is to do those marketing efforts in which the airlines have lost all of their marketing departments and everything else. Letters went out to each of our carriers and some of our prospective carriers that we've had contacts with, advising them of the program, giving them a copy of the program, and we are now in discussion with 4 of our current carriers over changes in some flights that would allow them to take advantage of that program. I don't know that any of those will specifically develop, but obviously one of those where the discussions were quite lengthy was American over the Chicago summer service. And they were very appreciative of the fact that the Valley as a whole, inclusive of the airport, is able to offer such a marketing package to promote the service. And by the time, as Alan said, the meeting was done, American greatly understood why we, the airport, and also the community of all the other desert resort cities got together and wanted to put together this program, because it's not about writing a check for somebody to fly a plane. It's about making the flight work. And it works for the Valley because we fill hotel rooms with people, and we also fill seats, and everybody gets their fair share. The airline gets their money off the revenue passenger, we get our money off the PFC charge and the money spent on concessions, and the Valley gets its money off the restaurants and the hotel rooms booked. So once we put the whole package together and explain that to American, which is what we do with each of the carriers, they got it. They understood the whole program is to make the flight work rather than just writing a check for the flight. But that program did get approved by the city council. It will come back before you probably in about 2 more months as one of the budgeting items, because we will have to renew the program. As you were aware, when the report went through, as it went through the council, it was just for fiscal year '03, so we'll have to re-up the program again each year. So,
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted everyone to kind of be tuned into it, because it is very important. Security, Mr. Smoot.
I think we've pretty much talked about it. Obviously, we continue to work on things. TSA has juggled the checkpoint. It's in a new configuration down there today versus what it was yesterday. One of the things they're trying to do is there's a group of folks who fly that are called selectees. And if you do the wrong thing at the ticket counter, you'll be a selectee. Those people are the ones that are pulled out for special inspection of luggage and personal inspection and so on and so forth. And right now there is a requirement that those people either be pulled out at the checkpoint and have extra things go on there, or we have to do what we're doing currently up at the gates, which is random checking of selectees and other people that are flying out at the gate check a second time up there. Part of what they're trying to do downstairs is reconfigure things around to where they've got a separate lane area that they can actually do selectee checking at. And if that happens, then they can bring the people down that are up there and do everything at the checkpoint. So So they're working through that process. We do have brand new x-ray equipment down there that was brought in a couple of weeks ago. We do have brand new walkthrough equipment that was brought in last night. And so they have new equipment down there. The old x-rays are going to be moved into various locations so that we can, instead of having to physically search golf clubs, which is a real problem down there right now on the explosive detection end, they're going to be x-raying them with that older equipment, hopefully allowing it to move quicker. So they continue to tweak the process. We are also working on a plan to get the explosive detection equipment out of the front area of Alaska first, American second, and then we'll work our way around in the lobby to get the rest of it moved around. We're hopeful that if Tom's able to get approval from Washington, that we'll be able to move some of that in the next couple of weeks, where we can loosen things up as it's getting more crowded down there all the time. So they are working on some ideas on how to do that, and we'll change the process to where the passenger will do what's lovingly called drop and go, where they will leave their baggage and leave the area. They won't have to stay with it. If something is detected, they may have to come back, but very few bags are actually having that kind of a problem. So that is going on. In the middle of all that, we're still trying to operate an airport, so we're doing our best to get with it.
I would add, just as a subnote there, the yellow shirts, the navigators are effective.
Yes.
I'm most impressed with the level of interest these people have in their job. It's very good.
Yeah, we've, the first 3-4 weeks, it was kind of stumble around because we really didn't have them. They were getting used to us, we were getting used to them, but now we really have them in a lot of locations. They're doing good jobs, are getting very involved with customers and talking to them. We've got a really good group of people down there.
Question in that regard, are they on duty basically whenever the airport's open, or they have selected times and dates?
We have a group of them here in the early morning hours, and then we have a group of them here during the lunch hour, a little bit after that. But beyond that, no, we don't have enough of them to cover all the hours. And those are the two push periods where we've got people all over the place that we need folks to help guide.
After our meeting last week, I went down there at 2:30 or so. I didn't see any there.
Right. It's 6 to 2. We're primarily got people.
Jane,
I'd just like to make one comment about that. I dropped my son off here last week at about 11:30, and if they give the kind of service that they gave us, we'll definitely be titled the friendliest airport in the country.
Good.
Because it was on, and you're right, their enthusiasm is just unbelievable.
They have really warmed to the job. It's amazing.
I think one should get credit for this, Barry. He did all the interview.
Marjorie's the one that's actually doing all the hand-holding.
Well, Margie always should get credit.
Great. Yes.
In
Mike?
regards to the security, I kind of read later on, I heard that they're going to take some of our security people to Alaska during the summer. And I wanted to know about the impact it's going to be to us. How do we feel about that?
What they're trying to do is they're trying to match up seasonal airports to where they can move the screeners around during different periods of time. And what the concept would be is we would partner with Anchorage, and during the winter months when things are kind of slow up there, they would send some of their people down here when we need extra folks. And during the summer months when things are terribly slow here, we would do the opposite. And so that it wouldn't impact us at all. It will be a better utilization of personnel. Otherwise, we'll have way too many people here during the summer standing around waiting for a passenger. So it's kind of an exchange program that they're working out within TSA.
And I think that'd be a very good move. Personnel was built.
Comment on the airport security, I want to congratulate the staff. A guard has stopped me from parking this morning. I'm impressed with your security.
Oh, he's wielding machete, was he not?
Did you get his name? Yeah.
No, that's what I asked.
Go ahead, Al.
We were out there profiling people. That's
She looks kind of suspicious, doesn't
On the construction side, the primary work we have going on is finishing up the rental car lot. We have a few little pieces to go yet. Some of the electronics are not in that we need to be fully operational.
Has the pop-up booth come?
No, it's not here yet. Week or two yet, where it'll be here. But for the most part, things are in place. The guard that we had on the entrance is now gone, and it's operating. Our biggest problem is the problem we've always had with the rental car lot is people who get near airports forget to read signs, and we have folks that are in there that don't belong in there. And so it will always be a problem, but we will continue to try to get folks to drive in the right location. And so we've got that going, and then with any kind of luck, we'll have this change order approved rather quickly and get on with the first phase of that work. And we will be going to bid in late February with the plans and specs on that project. Right now, the set of plans is 208 sheets, so it's a lot of paper and a lot of work. So it's moving along good. That is that.
One thing, all of you wanted to mark your calendars for the month of March, the 19th. It's that time again where the airport's required to do their triannual full-scale emergency exercise. We're going to do something different this time around. Normally we light something on fire and pretend it's an airplane and deal with that. We're going to participate with the rest of the communities in the valley as well as Riverside County in a countywide exercise, which the airport will have a part in that. So it's going to be a lot different. It's going to involve some natural disasters and some things like that. We'll deal with our responders and how we do that. It will allow us to work more cooperatively with the city, EOC staff, fire department, planning, building, things like that, as well as the EOC operations down in Indio with the county as well as with the state. So it's going to be a little different this time around, and we'll have more info for you at your March meeting.
It is a live exercise on tabletop sort of thing.
It's a live, full-scale exercise. You most likely won't see something that's supposed to be an airplane and fire trucks squirting water on it. It will be handled a lot differently, but yet it will still exercise that portion of the emergency plan.
Okay.
One thing, last week I got a call asking you from the airport, emergency, asking for my PIN number. Before I get my PIN number, they always say, goodbye. So, I don't know how we're gonna get around that.
I got one of those too.
Yeah. Yes, Rick.
Fumble finger.
You know how many?
On the back of your card, it tells you how to get around it. You call them up, you got 90 minutes to respond.
Well, I didn't do that, so I apologize for that.
But it wasn't too important anyway, because it was handled very nice in-house.
It was. And that would be the
What
first
did
thing
you
I
get
want
the
to
call
talk
for? I didn't get the
about. And
call.
it starters, Mr. Smoot?
A collapse landing gear on a Baron.
Under commission requests and reports, I actually wanted to talk about the emergency test. I wondered how many people received it and how well you thought it worked, because I was very pleased it happened. See?
Well, I had the same experience Ed did while I was fumbling around, getting my card out, and
Boom, yeah.
hung up. And then my cell phone started ringing. It was in the other room, so I had to chase over there, and never did connect.
May I recommend that you do what I did, and this is possible, is to change your PIN number to something you use or know or love, or instead of this obscure number of which our lives are built on all these
I
numbers.
think I did that, but I forgot I did it.
Call me, I'll tell you what's going on. But I would recommend you do that. I was very impressed. It was within minutes of the incident. It was a thorough report. In fact, Barry wasn't at the airport yet. I called Barry just to see if there was anything else I needed to know, and if he would call me if it got more serious, and he didn't, and so I assumed it didn't, and you got your name in the paper. I think it worked well. Once again, I want to get people to take that and put their PIN number or some way of understanding what it is. If you will get a hold of Marjorie, she can take that to the PIN number people and straighten that out for you, because it's a lot easier. Okay, next item, I represented you at the quarterly cabinet meeting with the city council and the mayor. We talked about airport security primarily, some of the projects that are going to be going on at the airport, including the CMG project on the corner here, of which the mayor is a big supporter. And I think we had a good discussion once again, the beauty of all that is it does enlighten the citizens as to what's going on at the airport. So I think that's the real value of it. It's not that we make any momentous decisions or anything else. Jerry, just a minute, a couple more. I want to comment on the RJ. I've talked to Ken. He is in Antarctica. I hope he didn't ride an RJ all the way there. Oh. I rode that aircraft the next day, as I told you I was going to. I went down, it was half full. Obviously, it was easily ridden on. I came back, I had the last seat. I sat next to a very tall guy, and who was part of a group of 20 or so that were coming out for a trade show, convention, medical thing. People that traveled somewhat regularly. So I asked everybody around me, you know, are you comfortable? And I was just, well, it's an RJ, we know that. It's not a lazy boy seat, don't get me wrong, but I think characterizing it as the most uncomfortable thing in the world, I told Ken I didn't think that was appropriate. It is a seat, and it's, I'm not a skinny guy, and I was comfortable enough. You get a snack, and you stand up and walk back and go to the bathroom and go on. I was not uncomfortable. So I will report that. It's not a lazy boy seat, so get over that. But it is a seat, and it goes where it's going. So that, I just want to bring that up.
And it's leather.
It's leather. Yeah, it's fine. I want to thank the Air Museum, Commissioner Ed Tavel too, for conducting a great tour of a group of my pilots who were in town in the middle of January. They really did a very nice job, and they were really very thoughtful about it. It was a busy weekend over there for them, and they made a lot of room and a lot of concessions to give us a tour after the flying. So I think that we ought to be aware that the museum is a part of our airport, and people view it as such, and it was very nice. Additionally, and I will say this because it's not germane to the airport, but it is to the tourism business. We were booked in the Marquee, piloting the Saturday morning paper, and practically fell over. 2 weeks later, we had a large group of 175 guys. So I want to thank the tourism board, Linda Ford particularly, who immediately called and said, help! She said, yeah, you do have a problem. And within days, she had 3 or 4 hotels contact our people, and found very suitable arrangements at the Riviera, which has been improved, and they spent $6 or $8 million up there. It's very nice. I just think that sort of thing represents our valley very well. And I made a large point of pointing that out every meeting I had a chance at the city, the airport, and the tourism people that worked overtime to make that happen. So I just wanted to point that out and say thank you to the Air Museum. Other commissioner requests and reports. Bill.
Just a question, did we have any inkling during the 2 weeks around the Bob Hope, how traffic was versus passengers versus last year?
We don't have an inkling yet. We will have it in a few days. We'll have some numbers from January to where we can be able to report that to you. I mean, it was busy. There was a lot of heavy metal on both of the FBO's ramps. And there was lots of folks coming through here. We had lots and lots of those, what's that, Chrysler vehicle that's the little sport coupe or whatever it is. That's what they use for their the cruiser. They had hundreds of those here that were the official vehicles. They were running all over the place. So there was a lot of activity.
And I think it was certainly successful, and from our point of view, at least certainly as well as last year, if not better. I was out here a couple of times, and I was overwhelmed with the number of people moving through, comfortably moving through. Not everybody, I got to say, passengers are aware there's going to be a problem, so it's not like it got sprung on. Most people are most cooperative. It's a good thing, actually. Go ahead. Anybody else? Larry.
This is kind of under the heading of user-friendly airport and marketing. I listen very carefully in these meetings, new flights and schedules of new cities that are now connecting here. I don't remember them. I got a question that was asked of me about a week ago about are there available flights to Las Vegas? I think there are. I really didn't know. And I haven't researched this, but I think on our website, if you access the website, you have to access by carrier to see where they fly. I may be wrong, but I'm wondering, there is really the question, would it be feasible to have the website so configured that if I wanted to fly to Minneapolis in July, I could say, I want to go from Palm Springs to Minneapolis, and it would tell me if there's any service. And if there is a service, they would list the carriers, and then I could access them to see which is most suitable.
That's already on our
Is
website.
that on
I
it
think it's
now?
there, Larry.
So my answer to an inquiry would be, check the website, right? And put in that information you want.
It's maybe not 100% user-friendly, but it's there, right?
It is a choice that's there.
Yeah. I
Well,
think-
very, very top choice that's there on the website on the left-hand side. I don't remember the name of it, but you click on that, and that is the program that we're paying for that runs the OAG system that has all the timetables in it. So you put in our city and the destination, it'll tell you what airlines will get you.
Well, that's great. I mean, and that would, I think I just have to communicate that more, maybe all of us know that when you got a question on it.
We could have a little test every week, what cities you fly.
Yeah. Tell us ahead of time, I have to study.
With a prize.
No prize, just F's and A's.
Chuck, in regard to Richard's heading up the committee on marketing, if there's any possibility that when he needs a group together, it would be nice if we could just have it right after this meeting if we're coming from Palm Desert. Maybe if he just wants to work with the city people, you could have it anytime you like. But if you could give us a little notice, I think we could get more in attendance.
Okay, that is a tough one, especially this winter. Mike?
I was doing a little research on the airport a few weeks ago. And I'm looking for an organizational chart for the staff with names. I couldn't find one. Maybe I was just bouncing around the wrong place, or maybe we don't want to publish that, I'm not sure. Or is it just a hassle?
I think at one time there was maybe not a chart, but there was a listing on the website that may or may not be there.
The city has one, but it doesn't show the names of, personnel. It'd be kind of nice to have
That's how
files
it's
and stuff.
positioned, I think.
We put it together for the commission. I think for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just curious.
Because I think that after the last rather major change, I think, didn't that get put on there? Or?
There was discussion to have it on there. Las Vegas, if you go to theirs, it says contact us, and it has the director's name and title, it has the assistant director's name and title, and it even goes down a couple levels further. It does not do all of staff.
Right.
And there was some discussion to put my name, Barry's name, Mike's name, and Alan's name with a brief job description and list us, but it just never got done. I don't know, perhaps if there's a desire to do that, we could put us listed there.
I don't think it's that critical. I was just curious if we had that, kind of document.
I think there's a chart here.
But through the budget process, I'm sure we could submit an org chart with the budget, if you guys wanted to see it.
It's necessary.
That's the point. Any other, Robert?
As a follow-up to Dan's comment, I think it's a matter of, using protocol, before a committee meeting is set up, the staff will coordinate with the chairman of that committee so he knows what's going on instead of reading it in the facts. And say, my God, I'll be in Las Vegas, I can't make it, change it. It's confusing.
Okay, I think let's take another advisement. Any other points? If not, city council actions, the list you have, without going into it, we'll pass on to correspondence.
There is none.
Nobody wrote to us all month. Nobody wrote. Connor. Staff requests and reports.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Two, we do need to have a budget subcommittee. And the budget subcommittee is the chairman, Mr. Striskey, Mr. Frieden, Mr. Levitt, Mr. Sherman, Mr. Spicer, Mr. Tyler. We would like to hold that meeting either on the 18th or 19th at 8 o'clock in the morning, which is a Tuesday or Wednesday, a couple of weeks out. We would get the budget to you latter part of next week, so you have it to look at over the weekend before you come. It would take an hour and a half or so to go through this, maybe 2 hours. And so I'd be interested in whether either of those days work for the majority of you.
19th for me would be a preferable day.
I prefer that too, or the afternoon, the 18th, I can't do the morning.
The 18th would be good. Did you say
The 19th.
19th, Wednesday,
I'll be out of
19th.
town the 19th.
I can't do the morning.
19th, anybody Jerry, you're not available.
I
Other
haven't
than-
looked at my calendar, so I can go either way.
You don't know?
No.
Let us shoot for the 19th. If there's a major problem, we will get to everybody and see what we can do. I think the 19th is more acceptable at this point.
That's all the morning.
In the morning, 8 o'clock.
Disaster, yeah.
No, that's March. Disasters are in March. This is in February.
This is
Sorry.
February, yeah, week and a half, 2 weeks from today.
We don't have disasters.
19th is 2 weeks from today.
Only March.
All right, let us set the meeting for the 19th at 8 o'clock here in the conference room, and if there's a reason to change, we'll have to work it out.
But we'll have, how much in advance do you think we'll have?
Hopefully midweek ahead of time, right?
Yeah, I would hope that by Tuesday, Wednesday, the absolute latest, I'll put it in the mail, please, so you'll get it Thursday, Friday. Exciting, Bruce.
Is that early?
Yeah, you're gonna be so excited after you halfway through it, you should probably finish.
The nice thing is there's not very many changes to it, so.
It's actually very interesting reading.
Yeah.
There's good stuff in it.
The other thing too is I just wanted to report to you that the incident that did occur the other night was handled rather well. Wanted to thank Mike and the operations staff and all the guys that worked on it at the fire department. It was a good response. It's always interesting for one of those events when there's all of us are gone, and it's just the basic staff that's here, and the basic staff did a heck of a job, and I tried to stay out of the way down there in the control center when they did send out that notice to you, and it was one person that was in there answering 2 phones and 4 radios and sending that notice out to you at the same time. So I just want to let you know that they did a heck of a job. Hats off to them for the work they did. Unfortunately, we had absolutely no notice that this guy was having problems, and if we did, we'd have tried to have gotten him onto the smaller runway.
That's my question. Yeah, why, did he declare an emergency? Do we know?
Well, not that we were told of. We're still looking into that. There may have been some communications that there was a problem, which we were not privy to until 20 seconds before he touched down, and it was too late. Any event, we did get him out there, and unfortunately we did have a couple of flights that had to divert, and they had to bus back in here, but there was nothing we could do about it. I mean, if we could have gotten our stuff together a little bit faster, we may have gotten the plane yanked out of there, but we were trying to do our best not to destroy the airplane. However, if it had gone about 5 more minutes, Mike and I were ready to go out and push it off the runway with whatever we needed to do. In any event, I just want to report to you, it did go well. And,
As a suggestion, and maybe you're doing this, but I'd sure ask the FAA why they didn't divert him to the shorter runway.
well, like I said, we're going through a check on everything related to the incident right now, as we always do, to find out about that. And it's usually, it comes down to, if we know it ahead of time, we will ask them to do it. They will try it. Sometimes the pilot's discretion, though, they just won't go over there. So there's some issues there, but we generally try to get them off there, particularly if it's at a time where we know that there's 5 major jet arrivals on commercial aircraft in the next hour.
Well, if the pilot was nervous, he preferred the longer runway to the shorter one. But, I mean, he's got 2 engines, you know.
The text.
What actually happened, he landed in
Gear collapse.
And then the gear collapsed,
the
left gear, and he leaked quite a bit of fuel.
Well, I think it was handled obviously very well. From our point of view, we heard about it, we knew about it, and it was finance, and informative, so that's really good. Seeing no further items, we stand adjourned till the March meeting, which is March 5th. See you in March.
Chuck is there, memorial.
At the Air Museum.
That way,